get a good picture of this honeysuckle. Pretty decent quality. So today we're going to be talking about honeysuckle. This is probably one of the top 10 most commonly used Chinese herbs because it's going to show up in about every possible antiviral, antibacterial, chronic infection, low-grade infection, chronic virus. It has all kinds of cool properties, but it's very unique. There's really nothing like honeysuckle. What's really cool about honeysuckle is we can use any honeysuckle. We can use the honeysuckle that grows in Nebraska. We have native varieties here and hybridized varieties. When you buy honeysuckle, these are like thousands of flowers. These are all still hand-picked. So this is probably why we don't grow honeysuckle in America for commercial use, because it'd be like $300 a pound. So these are grown on farms, mostly in China, and each one of these is a flower petal or a flower that's picked off by hand and dried. So it's like when you buy calendula flowers, right? You know, a pound is like a huge bag. You know how much space that takes? I don't know. I've never seen a honeysuckle farm, but it's got to be intense. We can actually use the stem and leaf, which we have here. So honeysuckle is more kind of vine-like in Nebraska. You can literally just chop the whole vine off and it has the exact same properties according to a lot of experts in China. Because a lot of times honeysuckle is hard to find. It's out during COVID. It was really sold out because this is one of the herbs that was showing a lot of research to be active against COVID virus. One of the things that was used a lot originally in hospitals in China right at the start of COVID pandemic. But it's a really interesting plant because its energy is cold, but its flavor is actually a little earthy and sweet. And that's a really unique combination. What does that tell us at this stage of your thought processes? What do you think that means about the plant? That it's cold, but it actually tastes more, it doesn't taste super bitter, right? It tastes more sweet or earthy. When you smell it, it smells pleasant, right? It almost smells like tea or green tea. It smells a little like you brewed up yams or something. The taste is maybe slightly bitter. I would call that very slightly bitter, mostly earthy, slightly sweet, pleasant, right? I'll pass this around, then we'll have Rachel take a screenshot of it too for everybody. Okay. So what does this tell us about this plant, that it has this strange combination?
That it regulates if you too much, then it'll balance it.
It means that it can have somewhat of a balancing nature. It also means that it has a very gentle property. Remember, a lot of our key antivirals like bone set and andrographis and golden seal, things of that nature are so bitter and disgusting. Like as a tea, we would get like nauseous from drinking them, right? So what is unique about honeysuckle is it has this very cold, intense antiviral, antibacterial property, but it's actually tempered by just this gentle kind of sweet flavors in nature. What this means is that we use this for anybody. We can use this in infants, we can use this in children, we can use this in patients that are really reactive or sensitive. We can easily combine this with stronger medications that some of those other herbs we might be concerned about. It doesn't have any major drug interactions that are known at all. Mhm. The direction is up. This gives us a really interesting trait. What does this upward activity usually signify? It's kind of upward and a little bit outward. That is the diaphoretic property. So this is a diaphoretic, right? Something that's going to induce a sweat at the onset of a cold or flu. Because it has an upward energy, it tends to really target like this part of the body, meaning the head, the sinuses, the lungs, the throat, and the eyes. So when we have infections that target those parts of our body, this is one of the main herbs. So if we start going through this, it's one of the main herbs for eye disorders in Chinese medicine, like you have a sty, you have red irritated eyes, you have like a pink eye, you have eye infection. You know, a lot of people just get all those broken blood vessels in their eyes. You have burning eyes, you have sore eyes. Any kind of infection or inflammation process with the eyes, we use it a lot. This can be used topically, it's safe. You just make the tea of it and you actually just rinse the eyes with it constantly. Or we could do a poultice of it over the eyes. And then we also take it internally for the eyes also. So we say hot, painful, sore, red eyes, no matter what's the cause. Okay. It also said targets the throat. This is actually what we call a conductor to the throat. So this herb is used a lot in Chinese medicine anytime the throat is inflamed. So whether you have a bacterial throat infection or viral, or whether you just have like laryngitis or overstrained your vocal cords, no matter what the cause from inflammation, thrush, all kinds of different things. We're going to use this for a sore throat from any kind of infection or irritation.
My sister. Adenoids, you had something to do.
Yes, anytime we have lymph swelling, this is one of our main herbs. So anywhere, yes, this is a major lymph swelling herb. So tonsillitis would be considered in that category in natural medicine. Adenoids that are swollen, tonsils that are swollen, any other kind of nodule on the skin. So this is one of our main skin herbs we use for nodules, sores, pus-bearing sores, sepsis, really bad infections and sores that are infected. Kind of like you get the idea, this is kind of like a Chinese medicine similar to echinacea, how we use that for any kind of swelling, lymph swelling, sore throat, sore. They share a lot of properties that are kind of similar. They're both also very mild. You can even do very high doses of honeysuckle and it's extremely safe. There's no toxic dose. So you could literally drink cups and cups and cups a day of the tea and it's going to be totally safe. The famous Chinese formula we've talked about many times. Yin Chao San. Remember, we've talked about this for colds and flus and the onsets of viral infections. This is the main ingredient in the entire formula. The formula is all based around honeysuckle. Okay. Okay. I guess I forgot to introduce its name, so let's do that. So this is honeysuckle. Oh. Honeysuckle flower. So the Chinese name is Jin Yin Hua. So Jin, I believe, is something along the line of yellow or gold or silver. Yin is flower. Hua is no. Hua is flower. Jin Yin, I think, is like silvery gold or something like that. Yin Jin Hua. The Latin name is Lonicera. We have a lot of varieties that probably native varieties and introduced varieties in Nebraska that probably can be used the exact same. Honeysuckle flower, I think you all will probably recognize it if you saw a picture of it. Let's see how good old Google is running today. Picture honeysuckle flower. This is the more native variety one here. This is not what it looks like in the prairie, by the way. This is a beautiful specimen. I wish ours looked like this. It's super beautiful. This is like what the Chinese variety looks like. Very beautiful. The one we have in Nebraska does not look like this very much at all. It's not this flashy. So very, very pretty.
It works about the same.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it works the same. Let me see if I can find the native Nebraska variety. Honeysuckle picture. Some of the best honeysuckle grows in Japan, but there's also a lot in China. I can't find the one I'm looking for, but I'll find you a picture of it. It's more of like a vine. It doesn't look very fancy, the Nebraska one, until it is in flower. Then you can recognize it. But it literally just has like one little flower coming out of a central. It doesn't have this whole profusion of like multiple ones. So this enters the stomach, lung, large intestine channels or organs. That's its organ affinity. I would also add the heart, major heart herb. Okay. And it conducts to the upper body. So running along that theme, this is like major dental herb. Do you have like a bacterial infection of your gums or teeth? You have like a gum infection, canker sore, gum inflammation, bleeding gums. We use this a lot as a tea, and people are getting chemotherapy or radiation to heal their oral cavity. We can also use this. This is a major herpes cold sore remedy too for people that have cold sores. Okay. In China, this is also used to treat appendicitis. Like in a lot of countries, not like in America, they don't always just cut it out. Like a lot of times people will get antibiotics. And in China, especially often herbal medicine, and often it's just treated. And if it resolves, they don't do surgery. So, I mean, obviously, if it's an emergency and it's about to rupture, they do. But in, yeah, a lot of other countries, they don't necessarily just run to take out the appendix right away. They often will treat it with antibiotics or things first. But honeysuckle is one of the herbs that's been used a lot like that in hospitals in China. I think you can even get an IV drip of it in China, I believe. Okay. So we said stomach, and remember its flavor is a little sweet. That should tell us it opens up to the stomach. So this is a major, major, major herb. It's really unique in that it's not super bitter, but it really targets the stomach. A lot of other things that are anti-inflammatory to the stomach are pretty bitter, like golden seal, right? And digestive bitters like gentian and angelica. So this we're going to use for stomach heat, stomach ulcers, stomach inflammation, people that have maybe bad acid reflux where it's made their whole esophagus kind of bloody or sores. Ulcers especially. We also use this for bacterial and viral intestinal infections like stomach flu, intestinal flu, a lot of really bad bacterial infections of the gut, like travelers diarrhea and things like that. It's used for. But it's not a digestive bitter. Yeah, so it's kind of unique about it. It's also used for tumors anywhere in the digestive tract, especially the stomach and intestines. Anytime there is an abscess in the intestines or inflammation, this would be one of the best herbs. In America, we would probably mostly see that as like diverticulitis or an ulcer in the intestines. We would use this. Okay. So again, this is antiviral and antibacterial. So for the immune system, this is what we're going to use for most contagious viruses and bacteria. So including COVID, pneumonia, just about every type of respiratory virus, extremely well researched for influenza, all types of almost viruses and bacteria that are of an acute nature. If it attacks the lungs, even better, even more specific. So we're going to especially use this this would be like the Chinese version of elderflower or yarrow flower or linden flower. This is what like historically and in clinical setting in China, if you have the onset of a fever, sore throat, aches, chills, sweats, the beginning stage of infection symptoms, this is what you're going to get hit with. This is what they're going to give you in pretty high doses. Used the exact same way, often used as a hot tea, usually in China, sometimes capsules, sometimes a tincture. Okay. There is really like no toxic dose of this. So capsules, we would usually be giving it as this formula, yin chow. Or we can do a tea. So like if somebody has a really bad onset of an infection, we can do a cup of tea just as often as you want, like every couple hours. A tincture of this works really well too. We would do like 60 drops, kind of like we would with echinacea or linden flower, again, every couple hours for a day or two that we're awake. The yin chow, if we're going to do this as a capsule, we would do like 2 to 3 capsules every probably 2 hours. So however, when we dose these things for the onset, it's going to be pretty heavy. And this is such a gentle plant. We don't like we said, bone set and golden seal, and a lot of those really intensely bitter things. can almost kind of be a little bit much if we do like that high of a dose. Honeysuckle's kind of different that way. Okay. For digestive infections, it is often combined with licorice. That's quite an interesting combination. For chronic viruses, it's often combined with the famous Chinese herb we talked about, istasis root. Like if you have just like you can't get over a chronic flu or COVID or pneumonia, we would often add istasis. If it's a really, really chronic infection where, you know, you're through the acute phase, but it's weeks and weeks later and you still feel horrible, what would we combine it with and you're depleted? We would combine it with astragalus or maybe echinacea in America. Or if you maybe have something chronic like long haul COVID or something, we would combine it with astragalus for long-term use. So you can take this herb indefinitely. You don't have to stop it like after a couple of weeks. It doesn't do anything to stimulate the immune system. That's what's also really, really cool about it. Question? Echinacea, if it's the right herb and indicated, we can do it really long term. Textbooks will say like 4 to 6 weeks just because of this incorrect like autoimmune concept about it. But
I have a friend with the lung issue from COVID. It's been over a year. How long would she see some before she see some improvement?
usually not that long, a couple of days. If you're gonna do like a higher dose too. Yeah. This is a major, this combines well with elderflower and yarrow and linden. We use this a lot with kids with that combination because those are all such gentle herbs. So you can give it to really high doses. Question? Yeah. I don't know if you can nebulize the tea. I don't know about nebulizing herbs much. We don't really do much during, I would have to check on pregnancy. That I'm not sure about. To my knowledge, in moderate doses, it's considered safe, but let me double check that during pregnancy. Let me double check that. Okay. So this would also be for sepsis or someone who's had sepsis, antibiotic resistant bacterial infections. This is one of our, plague pandemic of the future herbs that we have around. Or at least, the formula yin chow, that this is the main ingredient. Okay. Okay. This we said also targets the lungs. So again, any kind of lung infection, whether it's bacterial or viral. It doesn't have lung strengthening effects like mullein leaf or some of the other things we've talked about, but it does have really pronounced anti-inflammatory effects on the lungs. About the only thing this herb doesn't kill is like yeast or fungus. Okay. Also, because it targets the upper body, this is a major herb, especially in Asia, for breast lumps, breast nodules, breast cysts, and breast tumors. This is used a lot in breast cancer protocols in Asia, both topically on the tumor and internally. Often combined with radiation and chemotherapy in Asia for breast tumors. It's also used a lot for lung tumors also. Okay, just again, what I want to make sure we understand about honeysuckle that is different is that it does not have lung strengthening properties that other respiratory herbs might have, but it's good for the infection and inflammation. Right? If someone has a respiratory infection really bad, or COVID or pneumonia, where they're, spitting up, some blood in their mucus, and they're already on antibiotics, and that this would be something we'd really think about highly. This can be combined with antibiotics safely. This can be combined with Tamiflu or any other antiviral safely, as far as we know right now. That's why I also covered it in this course as a tea, just because it has so many uses. One of those herbs that almost like no matter what age or what sensitivity or constitutional strength, you can use this on people. Or what medications they're on. I mean, it's just like an all-purpose great herb. Okay. Why this is one of my, also I should say, we're going to use this a lot for skin diseases. Whenever there's pus, heat, sores, carbuncles, inflammation. Okay. So anytime your skin disease has sores and pus, weeping, severe inflammation, like an infected, pressure ulcer or something, this is going to be one of the things we're going to go for, including poison ivy outbreaks. Okay. Poison oak. This would be good topical on the skin and internal both. Makes a great bath. Okay, that's all really exciting, but why I really love this herb is two reasons. Secretly, or lesser known, this herb is really, really good for the heart and emotional heart. It calms, in Chinese medicine, we say it calms the heart fire. What this means is it's often used in formulas where the mind is super overactive or the heart is extremely excessively emotional and hot, so to speak, and we need to cool somebody's mind down or their heart. So I use this herb a lot in situations like that. We have to remember too, during really bad fevers or infections, people start to feel that way, really anxious, and the pulse rate elevates, and they can get, insomnia and even have hallucinations with the infections really bad, right? Most people are going to be in the hospital at that stage, but this is something we're going to do when people have more severe, intense emotions. So it shows up a lot in really quirky Chinese, like psychiatric hospital formulas and psych formulas. Somewhat. It's not like super nervine. It is a little bit, but it's often used as like in a formulation for that as a way to really cool things down in the mind or heart. So we do use this a lot also related to that theme that we talked about when we talked about summer heat, like a fever, right? Where the heat and humidity of summer can actually invade our body or affect our body and internally. Especially, remember, summer heat, we said, usually always attacks your pores, your skin, and your heart and your stomach. Guess what? This herb treats all three of those things. So this, like in China, this is a major, like we would use elder or linden or yarrow, right? This is a major summer tea that's drank a lot, usually with chrysanthemum combined, to allow your body to not get overheated or not be sensitive to the heat, or if you've had heat stroke, to help treat that. That's why we're talking about it today too, because it can help lower your body temperature. If you know you're going to be in 100-degree heat or something. Okay. It is also not related to that. For the heart, it is often sometimes used for carditis, like inflammation of the heart, or pericarditis, where the sac around the heart is inflamed from a viral infection. Or if you've had a bad viral infection and people get pretty messed up when you had like a viral infection of your heart, like pericarditis. The last gentleman that I had was super robust and strong, pretty young. He was only like 65. Ended up in a skilled nursing facility for months because he just couldn't breathe and get over it. Even though the infection was gone, just the after effects. So this is a really good herb if you ever had like infection of the heart. This, by the way, is why you take antibiotics when you get dental work. It's not for your teeth. It's actually so your heart doesn't get infected. Because for some reason, when people have dental work, it's really common for an infection to go to your heart. So that is one of the main reasons, the really main reason why you get that antibiotic when you get dental work. Okay, questions? Here's a little nerdiness. When the flower first opens, it's silvery white, like we looked at. After it's been open for a few days, it's a little more yellowish. So in Chinese medicine, you can really geek out on like the quality of different herbs, right? So this, you can see, is a little more goldish yellowish. This is still good quality, but the best, I've seen it before, the best honeysuckle is like white. It's very whitish. But it's very hard to find, and it's super expensive because it's all hoarded in China, where people appreciate it and doctors really are willing to pay for it. Where in America, we're like, oh, that's too expensive. So I've seen it before, I've gotten it before, but it's kind of hard to find. This is still a good grade, but you can see it's yellowish. Okay. It's considered probably that too, that it's more white, so it's targeting the lungs more. It's considered just stronger antiviral and more heat clearing. I think as the flower is aging, it just losing power or something. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Questions on honeysuckle? It's a pretty cool herb. You can go to the Chinese grocery store here in town and buy honeysuckle pop and things like that. It's so commonly drank all summer long, like chrysanthemum, that they just make all kinds of stuff out of it.
So my understanding that any honeysuckle that I would buy at any garden center.
Yeah, I don't know how medicinal like a lot of cultivated varieties are. This is the Chinese or Japanese variety. And there's a bunch of us. That's one of the questions I have right now. Like, is the American native variety stronger or not? I don't know. It could be stronger. I just haven't ever found enough of it in the wild to use it. Yeah. Mm-hmm. You can get the actual Asian one. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've seen it like at mole halls and that too. It's common to purchase. There's a lot of cultivars, and I just don't know how medicinal some of the cultivars are. But the Chinese authentic one would be, it's like a whitish, it's white colored. Okay. Questions on honeysuckle? This is why it's one of the main pediatric herbs. We use it for like pediatric infections, chronic infections, sore throat, like tonsils, tonsil issues, skin problems, skin inflammation, stomach inflammation. It's just used. It's one of the most common pediatric herbs that I use. And the good thing is it's just so safe too. Yes, it is good for even late stage lung cancers, it can be helpful. Oh, have to have Lasagna send us a picture here. Or harvest some, we'll buy it from you, Lasagna, or trade or something. The whole plant. Yeah. The main thing I want to emphasize, though, its main use is going to be for any cold or flu, acute virus, bacteria, where there's feverish and a lot of hot symptoms. Okay. It is very highly researched to have activity, as said, with influenza and COVID and a lot of different things. Okay. Okay. No more or any more questions on honeysuckle? Anybody get anything out of the tea? Lung. It's cool. Cooling. Anything else? Emotionally relaxed. Yeah, it's like a little bit of a nerve. That's why I love that little heart property. Yeah, Bones said a lot of those really bitter antivirals really go to the liver. So this is kind of unique that it kind of like affects, like calms the heart. I get grouchy if I don't feel good or have like a cold or something. So this is always a good one for me. What's that? I my daughter Aurora is about the only one I've ever met that does not get grouchy when she's sick. I remember she's little, she'd vomit, and then she would just like, even before we're even out of the toilet, she's like smiling and laughing. It's like, oh my gosh, girl, whatever superpower that is. I almost don't even want to talk about it because I'm afraid she'll become aware of it. Yeah, she just has this superpower. It doesn't get like, it doesn't get like, I don't know, emotional when she's sick. Really interesting. Okay. No more questions on that? Okay. I have so many hidden pulse notes all over the place. I forgot about it. I was just looking at something.